Major injuries to two of the best running backs in fantasy football, plus all the great players, the bad players from week 12. That's coming up right now. Remember to hit the subscribe button. Remember to hit the like button on the video. And let's talk football here on Sunday night. All right, it is fantasy football today on Sunday night, recapping week 12. What if you walked in with a lineup of Jalen Hurts, Najee Harris, Aaron Jones, both Bucs wide receivers, Dallas, Kyle Pitts? You would have been more excited about that. Dallas Goedert was pretty bad too. You would have lost. That's probably the all-dud team today. There were more duds, plenty of studs as well, like Heath Cummings and Dave Richard. How about that segue, guys? What's up? Come on.
It's not your best segue.
I want to offer you my condolences on your Eagles loss and my congratulations on your Giants win.
Thank you.
And I just want to tell you that the Eagles, your Eagles still have a very good shot to make the playoffs. Literally every team in front of them lost also. So all the 5 and 5 teams, I believe, or for whatever they were, lost right in front of them. The NFC is like 5 teams deep and then a disaster.
Yeah, but those 5 teams up top are so good. I mean, it is loaded at the top. And so right now, the Cardinals, Packers, Bucs, the Rams are the 5 seed. The 49ers nobody wants to play them right now. I mean, they're the 6 seed. Vikings at 5 and 6 are the 7. What about my other team? All right, they gotta have a little bit of a chance here, right? We beat the Eagles again. All right, forget that. All right, guys, let's talk about the biggest winners and losers. Heath, give me the biggest winner from week 12.
I think T. Higgins just resurfaced. Still good at football, it turns out. It was really great to see Joe Burrow looking his way early and often, focusing on him as like the focal point of the passing attack in a game, and then T. Higgins catching those passes and being open. It was a welcome change from what we've seen for a good portion of the season, and it has to give you hope as someone. I think it puts him firmly in that Mike Williams. You just start him as a number 3 or a flex, and the good weeks are great.
Oh my God!
I believe this was his first game where he had a touchdown outside of the red zone.
Yeah, he almost had 2, by the way. He had another one over.
Yeah, one call back. Yep.
Name like 10 terrible receivers, and I'll tell you how many of them I'd start over Mike Williams right now. I'm so mad at him.
Elijah Moore.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm with you on that one. I was going to say Odell Beckham, but he had a pretty good game. Would you start Odell ahead of Mike Williams?
I'm going to start Van Jefferson over him, even though Van Jefferson had a horrible game except for 1 catch. I'm going to start Van Jefferson over Mike Williams next week.
Chris Conley.
No, but Laviska Shenault probably.
How about the 3 Broncos?
Just Judy.
Judy had 2 catches for 25 yards today.
Has
he had a good game this season?
He's had decent.
I think his best game was before he got hurt.
Yeah, I don't know about. Yeah, it's wide receiver
72.5.
Jerry Judy has 1 game of 70 yards this season, and he has not scored a touchdown.
That was week 1, right?
It was.
I'm not crazy.
In a half
of 31 snaps.
Well, they're not getting good quarterback play right now. They're really. I give Bridgewater played very well in limited action to get 18 fantasy points. I don't know how many snaps he ended up playing. It's probably 60%, something like that. But that he did well. But he had a rushing touchdown. Yeah, they just don't throw the ball that well. All right, Dave, who's the biggest loser?
Is 5 of 21 good when you're a passer? Cam Newton completed 5 of 21 passes. He looked very, very washed. A total 180 from last week when he was getting rid of the ball quickly and guys were getting open in the short area. Just totally different. It's almost like they said, last week was nice, but let's change it up. And then they just looked like absolute doo-doo when they did it. I don't know how you can feel good about starting Cam Newton again.
Well, no, for sure not. Well, I mean, you might after next week, but I don't understand because I didn't watch that game, and so I haven't seen it yet. I saw several plays in the second half where basically Cam Newton had the ball snapped to him and then went into the fetal position and was sacked immediately. It was like the Lamar Jackson game for the Dolphins defense. But then I also saw early in the game the 50-something yard completion to DJ Moore, 60. I didn't see all the missed passes, but there were only 16 of them. I guess they just could not get a first down. And how did
Only
none of them?
16.
How did none of them go to Christian McCaffrey?
I have no idea. I know that he was off target a bunch. The early throw to DJ Moore was great, and then he had a rushing touchdown to end that drive, I believe. And I thought, okay, Cam's really back. This looks good. And then he just absolutely wilted.
Did the Dolphins do the same thing they did to Lamar?
Terrible. I think they were in his grill a lot. And the other side to it was that Cam just he was so slow to react. I was really disappointed in his performance, and I was really disappointed in Jalen Hurts' performance. Hurts looked like he was his throwing motion was so slow. It looked like he was slow to react. It was just a nightmare for both of them.
I think Hurts is a little different category for me, at least, just because if Jalen Reagor is I'm going to be nice. If Jalen Reagor makes plays that he should make, the Eagles win, and Jalen Hurts has another touchdown pass. And his fantasy days, not good, but it's whatever.
Salvageable. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's those 3 interceptions. Some of those picks were so bad.
Yeah, no, he did not play well. But you're absolutely right in the sense that if Jalen Reagor catches one of those, the first one was a touchdown. The second one, he probably would have been down at the 1 yard line, and then I don't know what would happen. But also Hurts threw an interception inside the 10 yard line or something like that. And then he ran out the clock at the end of the first half. So he actually had some opportunities. I don't know if I'm sure you guys saw that play. If you didn't, it was third down, I think, at the 2 yard line, whatever it was. And he really needed to just throw the ball away. But he extended the play, and the clock ran out. They cost himself 3 points. But Hurts had opportunities for fantasy points.
Yeah.
He's a young quarterback. He has ups and downs. It was a bad game. Cam looked like someone who hasn't played all year,
Right. But that's what I expected Cam to look like last week.
Yeah, well, he had the easiest matchup in the world last week.
I suppose that matters a lot, but I still thought that he'd be able to get rid of the ball quickly this week and at least be better than, a 20% completion rate.
Yeah. I said, first of all, I don't know that matchups matter that much with Cam, but I guess they do a little bit. But he had 2 great games to start last season. And I don't know. I mean, I was trying to think of this at more of a macro level. It's like, you can trust Hurts to a degree because he ran for 77 yards today. He just had a horrible game. And that happens, you can't fault him when Matthew Stafford has horrible games and Aaron Rodgers, right? It happens. But if you're trying to pick, do I start these guys over just better football players? That's sometimes I could never sit Aaron Rodgers for Jalen Hurts at this point, except for next week when Rodgers is on a bye. Even if I like the matchup better or whatever, I'm just never doing it because I know Rodgers is not going to put up a stinker like this.
But he has.
But
twice
he's capable of doing it too. He's done it.
He's done it twice this year.
Oh, he did in week 1, yes, and I'm not counting the Adams game if that's what you're. Oh, the Seahawks game, yeah. You're right. You're right. But I think he's much less likely.
I mean, coming into this game, it was pretty much, I think Jalen Hurts had been the most consistent number 1 fantasy quarterback this season.
I don't know if I would say that though since they changed their offense. But before that,
no. If you just looked at those 4 games, he had not been the most. But for the season, he'd been the most consistent fantasy quarterback this season.
Yeah.
And in 4 point per pass touchdown, I think he'd been the number 1 quarterback this season. So I don't know.
No, okay. No, I mean, I wanted to have kind of a philosophical discussion about it because the other one that I debated on the show this morning was Cam Newton, who we all liked. Cam Newton versus Kirk Cousins, and I said I can't start him over Kirk Cousins. So I don't know. It's just I have trouble trusting guys that aren't good passers.
But it sounds like more like what you're talking about is who is a better pocket passer.
Yeah, to a degree, because not only do I not think that Cam is a good pocket passer, I think he's pretty terrible at this point. And Hurts is another guy. He can be so bad sometimes,
Well, right, but every quarterback we've seen so far this season has had those games.
Yeah, I guess
multiple of them. Mahomes did it. Josh Allen did it. Just awful games.
Right. I'm just saying if it's close, I feel like
I think it's an aesthetic thing for you.
No.
No, I'm serious.
No, I like the mobile quarterbacks. I understand the floor that they give you, but I just kind of feel like Cam. I just wasn't really sold on Cam as a player. I mean, I kind of feel like he's just a bad quarterback at this point. Who needs his rush?
He's a mobile quarterback.
He is, but so is Lamar Jackson, and I don't feel this way about Lamar Jackson.
Not anymore.
Okay. All right. Anyway, didn't really have the discussion I was hoping for. I guess there wasn't really anything to discuss. Let's get to the big news. So before we do that, big merchandise news. Go to the CBS Sports store, and you can get 25% off all products. And do it quickly, though. Limited time offer. But 25% off. Go to store.cbssports.com or click the link in the episode description. You can rock an FFT hoodie. You can have a beer in an FFT pint, or you can work out in FFT joggers.
I'm wearing FFT joggers currently.
Are you drinking out of a pint?
I am not drinking out of a pint, but I am wearing FFT joggers.
How are they?
They're really snug. Fantastic.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Didn't need that image. So go to store.cbssports.com, 25% off all merch, store.cbssports.com. Link is also in the episode description. Okay, Dalvin Cook carted off with a shoulder injury. We don't know the extent yet. Deebo Samuel left in the third quarter.
He's getting an MRI. That's coming next. So
yeah.
I wonder if it seemed really serious. It wasn't a typical thing where he like jogs off the field after the injury. He was down. Players were down on one knee from both teams. Cart came out to help him get off the field. That's rare to see for someone with a shoulder injury. This does not look good. I hope I'm dead wrong, but not good.
Well, the fantasy analysis is, I guess, kind of obvious. Alexander Mattison, I believe he is 78% rostered. He scored more than 20 PPR points in each of the 2 games that Cook missed earlier this year, so you know what to do there. Dave, tell me what do you think about the Deebo situation? If he misses time, how does that change things for the 49ers?
Well, it certainly opens up targets for Kittle and for Ayuk. Trent Sherfield would probably take over as the third receiver there, but they're not going to really change their identity very much. They want to be a run-first team, and they were dominant doing that against Minnesota today. I would imagine that you'd feel more confident starting Ayuk and Kittle moving forward if Deebo doesn't play.
Did we hear anything at all about Deebo? Because he was pretty jolly on the sideline, like making jokes about watering down Elijah Mitchell because he was so hot at the end of the game.
It's true.
And giggling, and he did not look like someone who was in a great deal of pain.
Yeah, they're hoping it's minor. They don't know. It's a groin injury, and hoping it's minor. They're going to do an MRI tomorrow. And that's all I saw so far. By the way, Kene Nwangu would be another player you might consider picking up in the deeper league for the Vikings. Ezekiel Elliott, he says he's not going to miss any time. He's obviously got this knee issue. There was a report that they might consider holding him out next week at New Orleans. So we'll see what they end up doing with Zeke. But, you know, who's your favorite Dallas running back rest of the season? If they both play, who are you going to rank ahead?
I'm tempted to rank Pollard just because we know that Ezekiel Elliott doesn't look like himself. And Adam, you could make the argument that you've been saying that he hasn't looked like himself for a long time. And Pollard just has more explosiveness to him. And I wonder if he starts to get a little bit more of a nudge in this offense down the stretch.
If they're both 100%, I'll still rank Zeke higher. But I think this week I had Zeke at 10 and Pollard at 17. So it's more of a Chubb Hunt situation.
It just seems like they will continue to give Zeke the goal line work now. I mean, no matter what, he's going to get those. Well, I wouldn't say that. You never know. But that's odds-on favorite. Christian McCaffrey hurt his ankle. And he's got a bye this week, so hopefully he can heal up.
Some murmurs that he may be in a walking boot, but nothing confirmed.
No, okay. Oh, I mean, a reporter tweeted that.
Okay,
so
I didn't see it confirmed.
Wow, yeah, I mean, like Omar Kelly, I believe it was, tweeted it, and that he was in a walking boot. So, yeah, what can you even say at this point? I mean, it's so frustrating. He played 20 snaps out of 55.
Well, he only played 1 snap in the second half.
Amir Abdullah got a lot more snaps than Chuba Hubbard.
Right. I think that was because they were trailing. He played 2/3 of the snaps, 7 of 8 on 3rd and 4th downs. That's only in the second half.
I don't think Chuba is the same type of replacement that he was before Abdullah got there, though. They like Abdullah in certain parts of the game.
Okay, well, hopefully we don't have to have this discussion because maybe Christian McCaffrey gets better after the week off. Zach Wilson limped off in the 4th quarter, and his knee is not 100%. So, you know, this is actually a little fantasy relevant, guys, because if Wilson's not good enough to go, then we want to see Mike White back in there, right? Because we want Ty Johnson.
fine with Flacco.
Yeah, you might get Flacco first.
Yeah.
I think they might be more comfortable with Flacco at this point. Remember, Flacco missed this game because he was on the COVID-19 list.
Yeah.
So if he clears the protocol, he'll be back.
And this would be a revenge game this week, right? They got the Eagles.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
In-season revenge game.
They gotta let Joe Flacco. I think the problem is that they play Joe Flacco too much. It costs them extra in draft pick, right?
Conditional pick to the Eagles?
I think so.
Maybe. Teddy Bridgewater left in the first quarter. Then he came back in the third quarter. And
That's how bad Drew Lock was.
Yeah, right. I mean, Bridgewater was limping around. Heroic performance. Good job, Teddy. I think their left tackle got hurt. Is that right? The backup to Garrett Bowles?
The backup, I think it was him who got hurt. That's former Rice offensive lineman.
Yeah. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, the chat, I know you wanted to see the pint. That is a nice looking drinking glass there with the Fantasy Football Today logo. That is good stuff. Jalen Hurts hurt his ankle, not to the point where he couldn't play, but he got banged up. Miles Sanders. All right, what's going on here? He did not play much down the stretch. Boston Scott took over, and they're at the Jets next week. And I think Nick Sirianni said not only was Sanders hurt, Heath, but also Scott was running better.
Yeah, I think that this is a disaster, really. Like for everything that we'd hoped. And it's kind of been this way since Sanders went down. We thought it was Boston Scott, and then it was Jordan Howard. And then the next week, Scott played more snaps than Howard did. And so I just think this is a true hot hand situation. And right now we shouldn't have a great deal of confidence that Sanders is going to get more than 10 touches next week.
Hold on, though. If Howard is out and if Sanders is out, it's Scott, it's Gainwell, and maybe there's someone else that they call up. They find a third body to be the next running back. But I think I might feel pretty good about Boston Scott against the Jets because that's a bad run defense. The Texans made them look good today, but it's not a good run defense at all.
If I had actually had conviction, told people to start Boston Scott, this would have been the best call I ever made.
I did in DFS. You saw my DFS lineup today.
That's right. He scores every
Scott was
time
in there. He came through.
Yeah, and Sanders not like he played poorly, right? He had 9 carries for 64 yards, a 27-yard run, but he can't stay healthy. It's very disappointing.
Just 5 second half snaps.
Yeah, I don't know that he's going to miss the game, but he did get banged up. And Philadelphia center Jason Kelce left with a knee injury in the first quarter. Let's start talking about these games here and these performances. Here's your wow stat of the day. Joe Mixon has now scored 24 more PPR fantasy points in 5 of his last 6 games. He is good.
I was hoping this is where you were going to play the clip of you in the preseason saying, man, I hope Joe Mixon's good because we're kind of the Joe Mixon podcast.
Oh, I don't remember saying that, but that sounds familiar. Yeah. All right.
You did definitely say that. Yes. Joe Mixon was good. It worked. And the Steelers' run defense is not. Adam, you were right.
We are the Joe Mixon podcast.
Now, wait a second. I was referencing you congratulating us for being right.
I know. I flipped it.
And you flipped that into you being right.
Let's do some fill in the blank here. All right. When it comes to the Tampa Bay offense, I'm worried about blank.
I'm worried about everybody being good in the same week. And when I say everybody, I mean the wide receivers and Gronk. Gronk was fine this week. Fournette obviously was amazing. Just had so many great opportunities to come through for short yardage touchdowns, and he did. But there was also a Rojo touchdown run. Godwin's numbers were terrible. Mike Evans' numbers were terrible. Antonio Brown's going to be back soon. And Brady didn't look amazing until he really got rolling late in the first half. And then he started to kick it up a notch. But they found success running the ball. So whenever that happens, you know that there's going to be some drain amongst the pass catchers there. I think people might start worrying about starting Evans and Godwin, and I get it, but I just feel like there's too much upside with them where you have to say, okay, I'm going to sit them this week. You might miss out on a huge game. And then when they have their huge game, it could be Gronk who does nothing, or it's Fournette who does nothing.
Yeah. Okay. Heath, fill in the blank. When it comes to the Tampa Bay offense, I'm worried about blank.
Losing in the playoffs because I can't sit them.
There it is. That's
right,
a much better way of putting what I've said.
but just to point out, Brady has scored, I think, in no particular order, 13, 17, and 23 fantasy points in his last 3 games.
So do you feel more comfortable with Brady or Jalen Hurts?
Brady. I mean, I can make excuses for Brady.
Right.
The 3
He
games.
stays in the pocket where he belongs.
Well, look, 3 games ago, they had the ball for 21 minutes. Washington had that crazy drive. Last week against the Giants, they really they struggled in the red zone. Ryan Suckup had 25-yard field goal, 30-yard field goal, 40-yard field goal. And then this week, it was the rushing touchdowns. It was just, I think what's
Well, it wasn't just the rushing touchdowns. It's not like Tom Brady had a great yardage day. He threw for 226 yards. He averaged 6.6 yards per attempt.
But they scored 38 points. But earlier in the year, those were passing touchdowns. Like he's just handing off a lot.
My point is the only reason they scored 38 points besides their defense was their running game. Brady was not good today.
Correct. But even if he had not been good, you would expect him to have that second touchdown, really. And he just kept handing the ball off. And I kept punching things. All right. My favorite Jets running back going forward is blank.
No. No.
Why?
Why would I?
They gave you production today.
I don't feel good about anyone.
Tevin Coleman scored 9 PPR fantasy points on 18 touches against the Texans.
All right.
Austin Walter came out of nowhere to bogart the role that we thought Coleman was going to have.
Ty Johnson scored 4 fantasy points. And yes, Austin Walter, 25-year-old out of Crosby, Texas, who apparently went to Rice.
Okay, moving on. My favorite Tennessee running back going forward is blank.
Dontrell
That's an even tougher one. I think it's Hilliard, but they did not go away from Deontay Foreman, even after Hilliard had that big run late in the first half, even after Foreman fumbled. I think they like the physicality that he brings. And so I almost wonder if they fancy it as a thunder and lightning approach. Where Foreman
I think they could be
brings
right in the
muscle.
Harris Stevenson range.
But they're like a grosser version. And they're both they're all gross. Because Harris and Stevenson still have another guy to deal with. At least there's only 2 for now in Tennessee. And then after the bye, I bet McNichols comes back and it's a 3-headed mess. I'm not going to feel good about any one of them.
Okay. My favorite, what was the third one? My favorite Houston running back going forward is blank.
I'll answer Rex Burkhead for that one. I think it's Dunsville for David Johnson. And Johnson played more this week, but
yeah, I was going to say I thought this was encouraging for Johnson.
What was encouraging about it?
That he got more touches relative to Burkhead than last week.
Yeah, Burkhead played 64% of the snaps, actually. 13 of 16 on 3rd and 4th downs. And they're going to be trailing a lot. So if Burkhead has that role,
this is the first time all season that, I mean, Johnson's had that role all year, and he had 3 targets in the game as well. I don't know. I thought Johnson was better than Burkhead today.
Yeah. All right. Whatever. I can't believe you give me a real answer for this one and not the Jets one.
Well, this one's seriously.
Because there's 3 running backs on the Jets. They're all crappy. Hopefully Michael Carter is ready to go when he's eligible to come back after 2 more games, 3 more weeks. Or is it 2 more weeks? I don't who even cares. But it's the Titans guys. Like if I had to put my feet to the fire, I think I might say non-PPR Foreman, PPR Hilliard, but I don't know. I think Foreman is who they kind of like better.
Okay, let's go to our next one. When you ask me, quote, "Hey guy, who would you rather have rest of season, Myles Gaskin or David Montgomery?" My answer would be blank.
I still think I'd say Montgomery.
Yeah, Gaskin still has a bye, right?
Gaskin still has a bye in week 14.
Yeah, Montgomery.
It's got the Giants next week. After that, it's the Jets. Amazing matchup at New Orleans. Terrible at Tennessee in the fantasy championship.
Do you think at this point he goes back to his old role when Malcolm Brown returns, if Malcolm Brown returns, or do you think Gaskin's just going to be a touch monster?
I think he loses touches when Brown returns, if Brown returns.
I think Lindsey may have taken over Brown's role. They were
Brown's role?
They were talking about big time in terms of pass protection. That's the one thing they don't believe that Gaskin can do.
Well, what about the short yard? The other thing is the goal line, short yard stuff, because that was Malcolm Brown.
I think Myles Gaskin's acquitted himself well in that area.
Yeah.
He played all 9 of their snaps from 10 yards or closer today and played almost 50% of the snaps in general. They used 4 different running backs. They had Gaskin for 49%. Lindsey was up next at 21%, which is an indictment on Savon Ahmed. But most of Lindsey's snaps came in the second half, 11 of 15. So blowout game. They gave Lindsey some run. We could try and interpret what they thought of how he played. But I would imagine that it'll be Lindsey as a supplemental back behind Gaskin and Brown once Brown is back.
All right, let's get going here. The best rookie tight end rest of season will be blank.
If Freiermuth is healthy, it'll be him. He left with a head injury late in the game against Cincinnati.
I would still probably say Pitts.
But Pitts has been the Pitts.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a couple of injury updates real quick. Deebo Samuel said he's not too concerned with his groin injury, and Dalvin Cook has a dislocated shoulder, and they will get the severity tomorrow with the MRI. All right, so really Freiermuth over Pitts, Dave?
Yeah.
Okay. The best rookie wide receiver rest of season will be blank.
Jamar Chase.
I'd probably Chase.
Okay.
I kind of want to say Waddle, though. I really was excited and encouraged by what I saw today.
Explosive today, man.
Yep. And they put him out in a little bit more space.
He's got 15. Yeah, I noticed. I don't know what the percentage is this week, but the last couple of weeks he's played out wide more than in the slot. And Waddle's got 15 or more PPR fantasy points in 5 of 6 games with Tua. And the one exception was the Buffalo game. So he's just been an absolute, don't ask Jaylen Waddle questions anymore. You're starting Jaylen Waddle. We get more Waddle questions. He's one of the most asked about players. Just start Jaylen Waddle and obviously start Jamar Chase too. But for Chase, it's now 4 straight games with fewer than 50 yards. Okay. News and notes. Tre'Davious White, Buffalo's star cornerback. He is out for the season. Devin White. What is this, Schrager? Rodgers is going to make a decision about toe surgery tomorrow morning after additional testing. What?
He said he felt good for most of the game, and he's going to get testing done tomorrow.
Jeez, he's playing so well. Man, I don't know. Maybe it would be like quick surgery. I don't know.
I'm sure it would be quick
surgery.
If
it's surgery that he thinks will get him back on the field before the end of the regular season, then sure.
Yeah, I hope. Okay, well, we'll find out more about that. Other injuries, couple of bad ones for Tampa Bay. I think Devin White came in the game, though. He came back. Yep. Jamel Dean, though, did not. That's been their best cornerback this year. They can't stay healthy there. Cordero Patterson had a 27-yard carry in the second quarter. That was the longest run of the season for the Falcons. Thank you, NFL Red Zone, for that. Dan Arnold left with a knee injury in the first half. Jaylen Waddle, forgot to mention this. He waddled after his touchdown. That was a celebration. It was great. Giants cornerback Adoree Jackson left in the first half with a leg injury. Fred Warner for the 49ers, he left in the third quarter. Randall Cobb ruled out at halftime, and Minnesota linebacker Anthony Barr left in the third quarter. And we know that their run defense has been a lot better when Barr's been playing for the most part. Okay, winners and losers. Heath, you had Melvin Gordon as one. You had T. Higgins. We talked about him. You also have Melvin Gordon, 17 carries for 83 yards. And he almost had a touchdown, got the goal line work after a 42-yard catch and run by Javonte Williams. They put Gordon back in. He didn't quite get in the end zone. But anyway, why did you have Melvin Gordon as a winner, Heath?
Because he had 18 touches coming out of the bye, and he has not lost his position to Javonte Williams yet. We have no reason to project that they will lose it next week either. Melvin Gordon is just going to remain a borderline number 2 running back unless he gets hurt.
Yeah, and he did get hurt very early on.
Mm-hmm.
First play, or his first carry, and he came right back in. And they are at Kansas City next week. What do you think about them? Because when you look at the carries here, the splits in wins and losses are just so glaring. And at Kansas City next week, I'm worried it's going to be 8 to 10 carries.
Could be ugly. Yep.
Okay. Dave, your winner's Jaylen Waddle. I don't know if you want to expand on him. Chase Claypool.
I think you summarized it best with Waddle in that we don't need to get questions about him anymore. You don't need to ask about him, even in non-PPR leagues. He's more of a number 3 receiver in non-PPR, but still someone who is absolutely starting to show signs of continued breaking out. Continued breakout.
There you go. All right, well, Claypool was interesting as a winner for you. He was 47% started, 82 yards, 3 catches for 82 yards on 8 targets. This was coming off a 93-yard performance at the Chargers. And what do you got on Claypool?
It's the targets more than anything else. It's nice that he's getting a lot of shots from Roethlisberger, and it seems like he is starting to connect on those deeper lobs down the sideline.
Do you feel confident in him where you would start Claypool over Mike Stinking Williams?
I think I'm at the point where I would be okay starting Claypool over Williams. Both of them, they're almost the same guy.
Yeah.
They're both downfield dudes who make mistakes, but they always have the chance to come through both in the red zone and also on deep balls. But I think Claypool might be making a few fewer mistakes than Williams.
Okay, Chase Claypool or Devontae Smith. And the Eagles still have a bye.
Yeah, I'm leaning Claypool. These are ugly questions, and these are not wide receivers that I'm thinking about are as like surefire number 2 guys.
Mm-hmm.
They're week to week decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're not making trades at this point, so it's probably going to depend on the matchup and the setup.
And Eli Mitchell was your third winner. 27 carries.
Well, no, I traded him in for Valdez-Scantling.
All right. Oh, I mean, I thought Mitchell was so interesting.
We can talk about Mitchell too. It's fine with me.
Bonus
But
winner.
I think it's kind of elementary with him.
Okay. Then fine. MVS with what, 9 targets today?
9 targets, 4 for 50, and I like the involvement. I think it's going to continue to happen, especially if Cobb misses significant time.
The only problem with MVS is 9 targets, 4 for 50. Now, sometimes it's 9 targets, 4 for 90 because one of them was a 50-yard catch.
Right. Sometimes it's 4 for 40 in a 90-yard catch.
It's he's got the Brashad Perryman thing going on. If Brashad Perryman had played his entire career with Aaron Rodgers, I'd imagine he'd have an arc that looks similar because he does not catch a very high percentage of his targets ever. I believe he's still below 50% for his career. So in a PPR sense, 9 targets is like, man, you got to start that guy every week. And Marquez Valdez-Scantling is probably not going to be the same kind of way.
No, but I think he's entering the fray as a number 3 receiver. This is all provided that Aaron Rodgers is healthy and playing for them rest of season and not missing time because of toe surgery.
Right. But you also have to make the decision with MVS. Are you going to pick him up or hold him through the bye? And yeah, that's a tough sell, I think. I feel like this was a season high in pass attempts for Rodgers. Did he get to 40 today? I believe he did.
45.
Yeah. So his previous season high was 39. And okay, MVS. Let's do some losers. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get the losers from Dave and from Heath right after this. Cam Newton was a loser. That was the one Dave gave us at the top or start of the show. I combined the 2 names, the tart of the show I could have also gone with. Anyway, we're back here in the middle of the show to talk about more losers. Kenny Golladay, 60% rostered, 3 catches, 50 yards on 7 targets. And at Miami next week, at the Chargers, not exactly easy matchups. And Dallas Goedert was another one for you. I guess you could just say Giants-Eagles game. Big loser.
Yeah.
He had one
bad quarterback play, both sides of the ball.
Yeah. Any reason to roster Golladay at this point?
I don't think so. We're getting near the end of the bye, so we can't even say that he's a good bye week replacement at wide receiver. You know what the potential is, but that potential would be met if he had a good quarterback, someone who was reliable, a quarterback that could handle playing behind a kind of untrustworthy offensive line.
Yeah. Okay, so all right, no more trust in Kenny Golladay for now. And Dallas Goedert, how much do you trust him after his? Okay, here are his yards in his last 6 games: 70, 72, 43, 28. He left that game almost immediately with an injury. Then 62, and then 0. How much you trust him, Goddard?
I don't like that he has 3 targets in 2 of his last 3 games. or
But
3
is
or
it
fewer targets, I should say.
But one
But
was
one of them was the game. You're right. To be fair, one of them was the game that he got hurt in. Don't think he got hurt in week 12. I'm going to be nervous starting him next week.
at the Jets. You sure?
I think so.
He's a tight end.
Right.
Oh boy, is he still a must start though? I thought he was kind of the end of the must starts.
For me, he's definitely still a not adding someone else to start over him.
All
Like,
right.
what am I going to go get Tyler Conklin?
Right.
Are you going to get Cole Kmet?
Probably not.
Would you roster Cole Kmet with Goddard?
That's only going to frustrate me.
So
I'm
you'll
never
just-
going
so you'll
to
just
never going
take-
to choose the right way between those
Okay,
two.
so you'll just take the 11 or fewer PPR points that you'll get with Goddard and hope that the rest
Which
of your
is what
team can
Cole
still
Kmet has
deliver.
done for almost his entire career.
Really, that's true. I can't say that you're wrong on that, but at least you could possibly play the matchups between those
Almost his
two.
entire career. Why would you go there?
Well,
Why would you go there?
because
it's true,
because
first of all.
last week he was better than that. I would have said his entire career if it wasn't for last week.
You don't count a tight end's rookie season. He's had basically 1 year where he's been, potentially fantasy relevant. Rookie tight ends are almost never good. See Kyle Pitts. His entire career. Come on. I know it's technically true, but it's deceiving.
Okay.
It's deceiving. It's like when Chris said to me a few weeks ago that Devontae Adams has been better without Aaron Rodgers than with Aaron Rodgers or something crazy like that. I was like, it was the most ludicrous thing.
Well, it's true.
How is it true?
He had like an incredible 4-game stretch without Rodgers, I think was what happened.
I think it's because, I know why it was true. It's because Adams was really a non-factor the first few years of his career. And so those were with Aaron Rodgers. So it was the most ridiculous. Like you guys are crazy. All right, Heath, your losers are the 2 Patriots running backs and Miles Sanders.
Yeah, we already talked about Myles Sanders and the Patriots running backs. There was just no separation. This is just, they're going to be blindfold flex plays where it's just only because you don't have someone better.
When you say like they were dead even in percentage of snaps played, 34% of the snaps each, and Bolden was 33%. Third, and a third. Good luck with these guys moving forward, man. Like I know that you got bailed out with Harris, and they weren't even great. The first half was ugly for these guys. Bolden was the only one that was good in the first half for the Patriots.
I've decided, Dave, I'm going to run a Twitter poll first and make sure that everyone disagrees with me first, but I'm going to stop playing in 2 running back and 1 flex leagues because you just have to start some of these guys. And
Well, but that's the point.
there's no challenge to it because you just have to start them because you have to start 2 running backs in a flex. So I'm just going to start 1 running back in a flex, and then I only have to start the really, really good running backs.
Maybe we should just do 6 flexes
Yeah.
and a tight end.
Yeah, but
Why a tight end?
Aren't you making fantasy easier by doing that?
I was making fun of Adam.
Oh man. Aren't you tired of starting Mike Williams? I am so sick and tired of starting Mike Williams. If I played in 2 receiver leagues, I wouldn't start Mike Williams. Hold on 1 second. I have to check the 1-2 receiver league I'm in. I think I may have started Mike Williams in that league. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So Heath, I don't know that you can even say who the goal line back is. I just feel like they're alternating possessions.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Okay. So disappointing with the Patriots. Exactly what we thought was going to happen after 2 weeks ago, 2 games ago. Okay. And those are your winners and losers. Any almost touchdowns we need to talk about?
No.
There were a few that were called back. The Higgins touchdown, for example, was called back. Jawan Jennings had a touchdown called back. He would have had 2. That would have been somebody that we would have been forced to talk about with the 49ers.
I think
what else is there?
Yeah, there actually were. Okay, so the Eagles, if you're pissed off about Jalen Hurts, Greg Ward dropped a touchdown. Was not an easy catch.
Yes, that's true.
So Hurts could have had a pretty big day if his receivers had come through for him, but they didn't. And then if you were streaming a Giants tight end against the Eagles, Evan Ingram he drew a pass interference in the end zone. I'm going to put that at the almost. And then
that is not the same thing.
It's the same thing. And then on the next play, Chris Myarick, I've never heard of him. The backup tight end for the Giants caught a touchdown against the Eagles. It was very strange. And A.J. Dillon came up a half a yard short of a touchdown, and then Aaron Rodgers ran it in. Oh, Van Jefferson had a second touchdown catch from Cooper Kupp. He had it overturned.
Yeah, he stepped out of bounds.
Yes, he did. Oh, Noah Fant had a touchdown. What does this mean, Schrager? Noah Fant had a touchdown caught in front of him? Oh,
the pass was intended for him, and it didn't get to him.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Those are your almost touchdowns. Heath's favorite segment. I think I'm going to do Drew a pass interference in the end zone from now on, Heath.
I appreciate that.
All right. Miami 33, Carolina 10.
Should that get fantasy points as well, Adam?
No.
For sure.
Good answer.
Definitely think it should. Believe it or not, Myles Gaskin is a must-start running back.
He's close to it. Like at this point in the year where there's so many other backfields that are, just total guesses as to what you're doing with them. It feels good knowing that you've got a running back who's going to play a marginal amount, at least 50%, if not into the 60% range. And he's starting to find touchdowns a little bit more frequently. That's a good thing.
In a 1 tight end, 6 flex league, I do not think Myles Gaskin is a must start, but in most leagues I do. No, but actually we should talk about what it means to be a must start. Do you think there are 24 must start running backs?
No, not at all.
Okay, good. Because
maybe like 15 to 18.
I don't think he's quite in there. He's really not.
He might be right outside of there. Like, are you going to make a decision? Let's say you only start one running back and you've got Gaskin and the Patriots running backs.
Gaskin.
You're going to take a guess on the Patriots running backs each week, or are you just going to go with the guy that you know is going to get work? Right.
Right. But I still think we're going to get a lot of Myles Gaskin questions throughout the year. So,
well, that's not what determines if he is must start, though.
In a sense, it does, because if you wouldn't have any questions about him if he were a must start.
We just told people to stop asking about Jaylen Waddle. Let's see if it works.
Yeah, see, Waddle to me is a much more of a must start than Gaskin.
That's so strange because Gaskin's profile is much better as a startable fantasy asset each week.
I think it's format dependent.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to say I was specifically talking PPR. Gaskin's just so not good. I'm sorry to say, but he just...
No, but he's got the opportunity, and we've talked about it a dozen times this year. Opportunity matters more than talent in fantasy football.
Anything else from this game? You want to talk about DJ Moore? He had a very nice game.
He had a very nice catch at the beginning of the game.
He must have gotten a lot from PJ Walker at the end.
No, I mean, maybe 2 catches.
Okay,
I'll tell you
he had
exactly
100 yards. Yeah, I'd like to know.
He had over 60 yards on the very first play. So he only had 40 yards the last 50 minutes of the game.
And went over the player prop that I had for him. I was thrilled with that. Fourth quarter, 2 of 4 targets from Walker for 35 yards.
Yeah, 35 yards. And Cam Newton threw for 92 yards, and Moore had 60-something of them. Look, he was started in 92% of leagues. Do you think that makes sense for DJ Moore?
Of course it does.
Okay. Sorry.
Probably still be in that same range, if not a little higher next week.
Would you rather have Cole Kmet or
time,
Mike Gesicki going forward? And then I have one more follow-up. Cole Kmet or Gesicki?
Whoever's on my roster now.
I'm going to guess that Gesicki is the right answer there, but it's going to be close in PPR.
Okay, and last question. All this love for Waddle. Do you think Will Fuller and Devontae Parker jeopardize that? Not the love.
I think if one of them comes back, it'll push Wilson off the field, or Mac Hollins off the field, or Preston Williams off the field. I mean, all 3 of those guys will be gone once Fuller and Devontae come back. I think the targets are going to continue to be there. We saw it when Waddle was on the field with one of these guys, whether it was Parker throughout most of this year or Fuller when he was healthy. He still got a lot of work. I don't think that's going away. And I think the Dolphins, I'm encouraged by how they used him on Sunday, and I would expect him to continue to get opportunities.
And okay, Tua, I would love to know Tua's completion percentage over his last 2 games. It's probably 90%. He went 27 of, no, not quite. 27 of 31 today. He was 27 of 33 last week. Let's go to Cincinnati 41 and Pittsburgh 10. Whew, crushed them. What do you got?
Najee Harris is hitting the rookie wall.
Yeah, that's possible. And the game was over by the fourth quarter, so you can't look at his total snaps for the game and draw conclusions on that. He played 84% of the snaps in the first 3 quarters. But I wonder if it's more than just Najee hitting the rookie wall. I wonder if it's Roethlisberger just really getting gross. I wonder if it's the offensive line really getting gross. And all these factors are kind of turning things ugly for Harris, who's been a mostly inefficient running back all year long anyway.
Well, okay, so what's the argument against Najee Harris, Heath?
This is his second really pretty miserable game in a row. And the efficiency's cratering even further. And maybe it's more, like Dave said, an argument against just the Steelers' offense as a whole. But I guess the other way you could say it is Najee Harris is going to be more of a number 2 running back than a number 1 rest of the season.
They've got Baltimore next week. That's going to be tough.
I'm going to sell it. I think, I'm guessing there's probably a big difference in his carries and wins and losses. They had a 4-game winning streak, and then they tied against Detroit, and they've lost 2 in a row. And they've lost 2 in a row, giving up 41 points in both of them. So that's obviously never good for carries. It's just hard to. Well, what do you think, Heath? Are you buying or selling it?
I'm concerned he won't be a top 12 running back rest of the season.
Look at this.
I don't know that the schedule really sets up as one where they're going to be ahead in a lot of games. And I don't know that ahead's good for him. Like, I kind of thought the best game script for Najee Harris was behind. Ben throws 45 passes. You get 12 of them, and we're good to go. I think the emergence of Freiermuth has hurt him a little bit.
Well, but you say it's hurt him a little bit. I mean, on the positive side, he's given you at least 16 PPR points in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 straight. It's pretty good. So if he's a number 2 fantasy running back, he's going to be toward the high end of that. This was a miserable game for pretty much
9
everybody
straight before
outside
today.
of the receivers.
Before today, yeah.
Yeah.
What did he have? He had 16
Now it's
fantasy
9 out of
points
10.
last week.
Yes, he did.
16.
He had like 50 yards.
He had
I know.
59 yards, 5 catches, and a touchdown.
There's no question that he's inefficient, but I don't know if that's necessarily on him.
Oh, he's so good. I think.
I don't know about so good. He's good.
Oh, I think he's very good. Well, fair enough. First of all, not only have they had a bad offensive line, they also have a very beat up offensive line, don't they?
Yes.
They got some injuries on the line right now, so that maybe is just making things even worse.
Right.
Talk to me
so
about
what you almost have to hope for next year is that the Steelers reconfigure the O-line and make it really a strong part of their offense. But what are they going to do at quarterback? They've got a lot of work to do this offseason.
Okay, so Burrow, you might not like the production, 17 points, but if Higgins scores, it's 23 points. And 20
But
of 20
that's 23 points with a rushing touchdown.
Okay, but it's also only 24 passes. I mean, what I was going to say is 24 pass attempts. He completed 20 of them for. I don't think he had a bad game. Just when it was a bad game script. I don't know. No,
But it's 3 straight games where his numbers haven't been great.
We're
going to start getting questions
excuses
about
for him.
Burrow.
No, we should.
Right.
He's not a must-start quarterback by any stretch.
No, and the other thing that I've noticed is that we're running out of must-start quarterbacks.
Right.
Guys that I thought Burrow would be a stud rest of season 3 weeks ago. He's made me look stupid. Jalen Hurts was terrible today.
See,
a lot of people gravitated toward Cam Newton. That's not going to happen now.
I think he's a must-start quarterback because of exactly what you're saying.
Because there's just no one else to really go with.
Well, no, I had him like 15th this week.
Who'd you have ahead of him? Cam.
Cam was ahead of him. Heineke.
Hurts was ahead of him.
Cousins. Hurts, of
Did you
course.
have Russ ahead of him?
Russ is ahead of him.
Wait. I'm talking about streamers. Which streamers did you have ahead of him? Cam.
Well, I'm just saying, like, he was not a top 12 quarterback at the beginning of the season. So there's 12 guys that we just I just normally have ahead of him or pretty close.
Tannehill out of there, right?
Sure.
So I thought he was right around 12.
That's not a must-start quarterback, though. That's if he has a good matchup. He's You start him. If he doesn't, you don't.
But what about when his running back has a good matchup? Can you feel good starting Joe Burrow then? Because when Mixon has these huge games, like he has 5 of his last 6,
And they get the
that
Chargers.
includes the last 3, and then they've got the Chargers next week. Exactly. So makes me a little nervous to go with Burrow as a top 10 guy next week.
It is a pretty bad schedule coming up. Well, what about Jamar Chase then? Is Jamar Chase
Same thing.
Is he not a must start?
The problem is that I think you have to have really either strong faith in your other receivers, or you just have to be really loaded at wide receiver.
I think
I've got
difference
Chase in a
is
bunch of leagues where I have no choice. I've got to use him.
Joe
So,
Burrow
unless
can't
you've
make
got
his day in
luxury.
one play.
Sure.
Chase can.
Okay. All right. Atlanta 21, Jacksonville 14.
Believe it or not,
Kyle
there's
Pitts is
anything to talk
droppable.
about from this game.
Kyle Pitts is droppable.
No, I don't believe that.
Someone will pick him up, but this is another tight end that I don't think you should just automatically start.
Mm-hmm. Cordell Patterson. I mean, this is unbelievable because
really
previously he hadn't even been a good rusher. He had just been doing it all in the passing game, basically. And now he faces a very good run defense, 16 carries, 108 yards, 2 touchdowns, and nothing. Now he's like Deebo Samuel now. He's like all rushing and no receiving.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just blown away at this season by Cordell Patterson. He is, I want to give a top 3 of fantasy MVP. Top 4. Jonathan Taylor, Cordell Patterson, Deebo Samuel, and Cooper Kupp. That's my top 4 right now.
Those guys are really good. 14 plus PPR points now in 8 of his last 9 games. Very Najee Harris-ish.
The only one he didn't, he left with an injury.
That's right.
Yeah. So who's your MVP right now? And you can feel free to do something on it. Write in someone.
Well, I think Patterson's ahead of Elijah Mitchell. I think he's ahead of Deebo. And that's tough to say because Deebo's really been great. But I just think the fact that you were able to get this guy who you could use as a running back, and he's provided ultimate consistency, and you didn't even have to draft him. He wasn't even a guy. I'm sure after week 1, we weren't going crazy for him, or week 2, whenever this streak started for Cordero. I don't think we've really were crazy about him.
Yeah, and he's dual eligible. There's that.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
I think he'd be my pick. It's tough not to go with Taylor, but I think he'd be my pick. Patterson. Heath, what do you think?
The story is yet to be written.
All right, fine. We've got people commenting in the chat here. All right. Got some differences of opinion there. Anything else from this game? I was hoping to see what Kadri Allison would do for an encore, but he did not play.
He didn't even play.
Russell Gage, guys. In his last 6 games, he has 4 games with 49 to 67 yards and 0 yards in each of the other 2 games. He also caught a touchdown today, which he rarely does. You're going to pick up Russell Gage, 40% rostered.
I started Russell Gage in 2 different leagues today. That's how bad my wide receivers are in those leagues. I think he's a borderline number 3 wide receiver every week.
Until Ridley's back. If Ridley's back, hopefully.
If Ridley's back.
Yeah, we don't have. I think we.
I feel like it's more of like a low end number 3.
Would you rather have Chenault or?
What's the difference between a borderline number 3 and a low end number 3?
They're basically the same.
Okay.
10 spots in the rankings. They're not basically the same.
I said, no, they're exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing.
Low end sounds so much harsher.
It's a borderline. Borderline makes you brimming with confidence.
Yeah, you're like borderline cool guy. You are low end cool. I don't like that.
I'm neither.
All right, sorry. Answer this question before we go on to the next awesome game. Chenault or Gage?
Gage, because I can't stand the sight of Chenault.
Yeah, Gage for sure.
Okay, so Gage is more borderline, and Chenault is.
I think I'd take Gage over Marvin Jones. I'd take Gage over pretty much anybody in Jacksonville at this point, except for James Robinson.
All right, Dave. Let's go to the next game. Jets 21, Houston 14. Heath, what are
Finally, we're at the game of the week.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, Zach Wilson makes Elijah Moore a flex at best.
I believe it. I believed it before the game kicked off today.
I also believe it.
Zach Wilson isn't good right now. He might not be good till next year.
Well, he might not ever be good.
Keep going. Yeah.
Sure.
Like there's
Possible.
He's really bad. I'm not quite sure I totally believe it yet. Just because they had no connection at all in the first half. And it's like they went into halftime and they're like, dude, throw the ball to your best player. And he came out and did that early in the second half. And so if I just looked at the second half and extrapolated, I could see some reason for positive hope. I'm probably going to start Elijah Moore one more week.
Against Philadelphia?
Against Philadelphia. I don't imagine he's going to get Darius Slay.
Philadelphia, New Orleans, at Miami. Dolphins will be coming off their bye for that game. Jacksonville after that. Tampa Bay in week 17 for your fantasy championship.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta see Zach Wilson start to put it all together before I look at Elijah Moore and say, no problem, start him.
I mean, if my counterpoint is, for a month before this game, he was the number one wide receiver in fantasy.
Yeah.
And his bad game was 9.3 fantasy points. And a lot of really good wide receivers have had bad games of 9 fantasy points.
Yeah.
But they will also have games of 15 plus fantasy points.
Well, he was just the number one wide receiver in fantasy for a month.
Right. Who was his quarterback?
Exactly. They weren't good. He doesn't need a good quarterback. He had
I
Mike
think he
White
needs
and Josh Johnson and it. So
I get it. But Zach Wilson's awful right now.
Yeah.
He is.
And he's not healthy. I think I'm not convinced he's going to start next week. I'm not. So we'll see. Just because of
that would get me to change my tune, obviously.
Yeah. Okay, and Brandon Cooks. Chase Claypool or Brandon Cooks?
Cooks.
He had a 40-yard touchdown. He had 5 yards.
This is a great catch. Crazy catch.
Yeah. Okay. He's frustrating. And
Tyrod Taylor, don't do that on his good games. Like, we've got to deal with Mike Williams today and Cortland Sutton today and all this crap today. When the guys score touchdowns, they're not frustrating. They had a good day for us.
It's 13.5 points in PPR. It's not that good of a game.
It's a good game today.
It is a good game, I know, but you gotta look under the hood here. It's not like Tyrod Taylor is completely saving him.
We're still playing in 3 wide receiver leagues, Adam. You haven't changed them all for next year.
I know, that's why it's like, what kind of do we even get to have conversations about wide receivers anymore? Or they're all just starts in 3 receiver leagues? That's what I'm talking about.
No, we're not starting Laviska Shenault.
I'm sorry. I said Laviska. New England 36, Tennessee 13. Gosh, the 1 o'clock games are awful. Woo.
Believe it or not, both Deontay Foreman and Dontrell Hilliard are startable moving forward after the bye.
Well, obviously. And this is one of the best case scenarios that we could have had from this run game after today. They got Jacksonville in their first game back. I'm sure they're going to try and run it at them. If Pittsburgh's defense is bad, that's the game after Jacksonville. These are guys who are worth holding. And we weren't sure how it was going to shake out in Tennessee, but I think they're worth holding for now and not worth dumping during their bye week, which was a possibility for one or both of them, depending on how they played in the game. The concern that I have, I mentioned it earlier in the show, Jeremy McNichols will eventually be back. Does that make this a 3-headed backfield? What happens to Hilliard's role when that happens? So still questions that have to be answered, but for now, I wouldn't let these guys live free on the waiver wire.
Man, you run for a 68-yard touchdown. You get 131 yards. I know he did fumble. They both fumbled. I don't think Jeremy McNichols is going to take his job. You know what I mean? But he could have a role. And
he could have that passing downs role.
Yeah.
What's stopping them from doing what the Patriots are doing?
Oh, they each had only 1 catch, so it's a little disappointing.
Which was discouraging after what Hilliard did last week.
And by the way, the fact that Ryan Tannehill is rostered in 85% of leagues makes me think that he's been so bad this year that 85% of his managers just have no chance and have completely given up. What were you doing? If you had Ryan Tannehill, he's facing the Patriots without A.J. Brown, and then he's got a bye. Why on earth was this man on your team? That is
because
just Terrible.
Not everybody listens to our show, and other people might just be going through the motions with their fantasy team. I can't defend it either, but I got a feeling his number's about to hit the toilet with the Titans going on by.
Yeah, I think Adam's probably right. If those people had him this week in week 12, they're probably not dropping him, probably not making waiver claims in week 13.
No, I bet they are. I bet they'll see that he's on a bye and they need somebody else for their team. They'll let him go. It won't be 85%.
Well,
this time next week. It might not be 58% this time.
It shouldn't be 5%. I mean, well, it's an exaggeration.
It could be more than 5.
It shouldn't be 30%. I mean, he should be a pretty. AJ Brown's not here for 2 more games at least. All right. Anyway, Mac Jones, he's playing pretty well, and he's got 25 fantasy points in 3 of his last 6 games. Unfortunately, his next 4 games, 2 of them are against Buffalo, even without Tre'Davious White. It's probably not a good matchup, and 1's a bye. So I said 4 games. I meant 4 weeks. What do you think about Mac Jones? Do you think we need to add him at Buffalo next week? Well, he's playing pretty well, and quarterbacks are struggling right now.
Okay, so what do you do? If you pick him up it's a 1 quarterback league, you're probably not going to be confident enough to start him. And then he's got his bye after that game against Buffalo. You'll probably just return him to the waiver wire after that. If there's a time to pick up Mac Jones just to speculate for the playoff run, it's on the Saturday before week 14 games kick off.
All right, fine. I was just bringing it up. Tampa Bay 38.
Mac Jones or Jalen Hurts?
Hey, Mac Jones or Joe Burrow? You going to name 12 quarterbacks that you definitely like better than Mac Jones?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Probably 15.
Okay, but that's because of Buffalo or because it's Mac Jones?
No, it's because of Buffalo and the situation that he's in with the tough matchups. And he played great today. There's been plenty of games where he's played efficient football, just not a stat monster.
I know, but he is playing well. I mean, let's give the guy some credit.
No, he's playing well, just
he
not
is.
for fantasy. For fantasy purposes, he's probably QB 22 on the season or something. Yeah, and over the last 6 weeks on a per game basis, he's probably like QB 18.
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, he's got 25 points in 3 of his last 6 games. Like I said, that's pretty good. Tom Brady hasn't done that in 4 weeks. So by the way, just say real quick, Kendrick Bourne, must add?
I'm not probably going to feel comfortable starting him.
It's almost the exact same thing as the Mac Jones argument.
Okay.
No one's going to feel good using him.
Let's just go to our next game. We got a lot of games left. Tampa Bay 38, Indianapolis 31.
Believe it or not, Antonio Brown's going to be the best Buccaneers wide receiver rest of season.
That's a fun one. I'm not going to believe it, Heath. I don't believe you.
Who is?
I'm going to take Evans.
Okay, I was going to say, you don't get the field.
It could easily be Brown. It's a great question. Dave, what do you got? Who's the best Bucs wide receiver?
I'll say Evans.
I'll be curious.
I mean, I've changed my mind on this 4 times this year already.
Right. So, I mean, how can you not choose Evans after the game he just had?
I know.
Oh, yeah, on fire.
He, again, and it's just like, it's always what is the thing? What are the things that you look for? I know I have a type. Dave has a type. Like Evans is the one that still just scares me to death because this is 4 out of 6 games with 5 targets or fewer.
Yes.
Like, that's awful.
Yes.
True.
Agreed.
But he scored a bunch of touchdowns, so he'll probably just do that again.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Jonathan Taylor, start him. You good with him next week at Houston? All right, Michael Pittman. You good with Michael Pittman next week at Houston? He's now got 12 or fewer PPR points in 3 straight games, but he did get 10 targets.
Yeah, I like the targets, and I know what his role is in this offense. I'm going to be fine starting him against Houston.
He's a number 3,
but like a high end number 3.
I think he was bad against Houston earlier in the year because Wentz barely threw, if I recall. Right. And that's a concern. I kind of talked about that when we broke down the game on Thursday. Carson Wentz throws 11 more times in losses than wins. I thought they were going to lose. Oh, they did lose this game. I'm sorry. They had it.
You're right.
Yeah.
Adam was right.
Adam, you were right.
Adam, you were right.
Thank you, Heath. I didn't even realize I was right. So yeah, that's an issue here for Pittman. Giants 13, Eagles 7.
You should just forget about this week and start Jalen Hurts next week.
At the Jets, Dave.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea.
I agree. What about Devontae Smith? Should you start him next week? 2 catches for 22 yards on 4 targets. Now before that, he had 3 straight games with 6 targets.
I think I'd rather start Pittman.
I was just going to say I think I'd put him ahead of Pittman, but they are definitely in the same range. Like, I'm not sure which one of those guys will be ahead, but they're right in the same range.
What do we do with Saquon Barkley? 53 total yards, 4 catches.
Look, he played a ton. He was on the field a lot. I just wish he had more He had the one big play, right? And then everything else was Dudsville. Number 2 running back.
I want to say something. I just want to get the Pro Football Reference pages pulled up so that when Adam starts screaming, I can start doing a little bit of research to make a counter argument. Is it possible that Myles Gaskin is better than Saquon Barkley rest of the season?
Oh, rest of season? I thought that was just an overall question. Oh yeah, it's possible. This is probably.
I can't believe it, but
they're not the worst offense in football, but they're really close.
They're not as bad as Houston. I don't think they're as bad as the Jets.
They might be.
I think they're in that bottom 5 range. Jacksonville is a pretty bad offense, but at least Robinson's producing something. Robinson didn't play a lot of snaps today. I'm like, at least Barkley's playing.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. It's just the 2 games before he got hurt, he was tremendous. He had 94 total yards, 126 total yards. He scored in both of them.
Yep.
Those were his only games with more than 11 PPR fantasy points in 6 games. I mean, that's just terrible. And he's just not going to. It's this point. It's like, is he going to run the ball well? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, is Saquon Barkley ever going to be good again? I think is the question.
I wish I could
ever again in his life. Yes, I think he will be.
So, all right, I guess Barkley is a number 2 running back rest of season.
What's the astronaut meme?
I don't know the astronaut meme.
There's an astronaut, and then the camera kind of pans, and there's another astronaut behind him with a gun, and it says "always was." I don't get it, but I think that's the meme.
Always was.
Yeah, you said Saquon Barkley is a number 2 running back.
I don't get what that has to do with astronauts and a gun. I don't know.
That's the meme, but Saquon Barkley always was a number 2 running back. That's what the point was.
Certainly,
he hasn't fallen anywhere. This is just where he always was.
Oh, stop. All right, Denver 28, Chargers 13. What do you got for this game?
Believe it or not, Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon are the only Broncos who need to be rostered.
Who need to be rostered? I will push back on that. I don't believe that. I think Fant deserves to be rostered, and I still think Judy is useful as a bench receiver.
Because you can look at him, and every once in a while you can pull up his player page and see that he was drafted in the 1st round, and then you can say, look at how much upside I have on my bench.
Right.
This guy was drafted in the 1st round.
So Judy the last couple of weeks was not that bad, was he? They threw for 160 yards, basically. It's pretty terrible.
They threw 25 passes. Locke had 7 of them. It's an offense that will do what it takes to win a game without having to throw a ton, because if they have to throw a ton, they're probably not going to win. And I just feel like that Judy's season ended up being lost when he sprained his ankle. And he came back and he looked good, but the quarterback play has been bad. Offensive line hasn't been great to protect the quarterback. It's an ugly offense.
Now, I do think that he'll probably score a touchdown at some point, maybe against the Lions in week 14. But his 5-game game log now goes 13, 7, 12, 10, 4.
Okay, so the 13 was in a half, and then the 4 was bad. First game back.
No,
I think I'm looking at the last 2
the 4
games.
was today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Week 12.
Okay. I'm looking at the previous 2 games as what I consider to be
12, 10, 4.
Yeah, 12, 10. That's kind of 11 PPR fantasy
I'm not going to
points.
forget about the 4.
No, because I'm about to tell you why. You're talking about today, right?
Right.
They won easily. They ran the ball a ton. They threw the ball 25 times for 155 yards, something like that. How can you expect them to have a good day when their passing game is this anemic? Typically, they're going to be throwing the ball for more like 230 to 250 yards or something like that. So I think, he had 6 catches each of the previous 2 games. That's all I'm saying is that this was the worst case scenario for him. I don't see a ton of upside anymore, though.
Right. All I'm saying is he's played 5 games, and you're saying these are the 2 that I think matter.
No, that's not what I'm saying, Heath. I think, first of all, they're not even his best 2. Week 1 was his best one. What I'm saying is I think the last 2 games are going to be more, the rest of the Broncos season is going to be more like the last 2 games than this game. And if they are just not winning by 14 points the entire game, then he's going to have more production.
I think that you are definitely right that week 13 will be like that. The next week they play the Lions at home. So that probably won't be that way. And then they play the Bengals. That could be a disaster, as we saw from the Steelers today. Or it could be a good situation.
Let's look at 45 pass attempts from the Steelers today. Something I don't remember what it was, but
Yeah, you don't know for sure. Like the Steelers kept Ben Roethlisberger and their starters in a 30-point game with 6 minutes left to score fantasy points. We don't know for sure.
I'm not giving him a ton of points. I'm giving him 6 catches for 50 yards. I'm saying he's a number 3 guy.
Like he's a 6 for 60 guy. I don't know that we need to go on this much over Jerry Jeudy. It's a disappointing year. Yeah. It absolutely sucks. The bust label is starting to show up on him a little bit after 2 bad years in the league. It is what it is. And at best, he's a number 3 receiver.
What about Justin Herbert? How much faith do you guys have in him? He did score 23 points. It was not pretty.
It was the ugliest 23 points you'll ever see.
Right.
I still look at him as a must-start fantasy quarterback.
Closer for me to Hurts than Burrow.
Okay. And Green Bay 36, Rams 28.
Believe it or not, Odell Beckham is going to be a starting fantasy receiver rest of the season.
One big play is going to change how we feel, or is it going to be more about 10 targets? Yeah, the 10 targets was good. And the Rams are starting to kind of lose their desire / success at running the ball, which could end up hampering them quite a bit. Jacksonville next week is nice, sort of. I think they'll be able to do fine in that game.
What's the answer?
Beckham is a number 3 receiver next week, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, and
if he's healthy, he was beat up in this game.
We have a second one because I messed up. Believe it or not, A.J. Dillon will be better than Aaron Jones rest of the season.
Well, that's an interesting one. My guess is no. I won't believe that. But I think they're both going to be in that middle of the number 2 running back range.
Wow.
Rest of season.
I always send my my answers to Jamie and Jack for the Monday show when I come up with these. And I just left my answer on that one blank because I'm going to sleep on it. Because there's a big part of me that thinks I don't think there's any doubt right now. This week, A.J. Dillon has more juice than Aaron Jones. And there's a part of me that just thinks he's the younger back. And I will just bet on the guy that currently has the most juice, having the most juice the rest of the season.
The thing that pulls me to Aaron Jones is that Dillon does not have any rushing touchdowns when Aaron Jones has been healthy, excluding today when Aaron Jones was in the secondary role. But before the injury, because Dillon scored twice in that Seahawks game, but they were both after Jones got hurt. So I kind of see it like a Zeke situation where Jones is their guy, and I think that they're going to get him more involved in the,
But the 2 weeks before the injury, one of those weeks, Dillon had a lot more carries than Jones, and one of those weeks, Dillon had 4 catches and Jones had 0. And that was before Jones got hurt.
But the 4 Jones is the guy that in the passing game.
I don't know that he is. They've been throwing about Dillon a lot. Yeah.
I think they're okay using Dillon in the passing game. I think there's enough evidence
using him, but he's not Aaron Jones.
Right, but I don't know if they're going to use Aaron Jones like you're making Aaron Jones out to be. Like he's a consistent 5+ catch guy. Who has more games with 4+ receptions this year?
I would guess Jones. I
don't know how many Dillon had today.
Dillon had 5 today.
Dylan has 4 of those games then.
Oh, well, then I would guess wrong, I'm assuming.
And the
1,
thing
2,
is,
3, 4, 5, 6 games for Jones with 4+
Oh,
receptions.
all right.
The thing,
So he does
the
have
thing with
more.
Dylan, we didn't really expect him to be as good as he has been in the passing game, but
Correct.
in the small sample of the 2 seasons that he's played, 24 targets coming into this week, so 30 some now, he has been super elite. Because the thing is, you put him out in space like that, defensive backs can't tackle him by themselves. And he's just averaging huge numbers after the catch and breaking tackles out. And it seems like the Packers like that.
But
Today, notwithstanding.
I just think that Jones is. We don't want to forget how good Aaron Jones is.
No,
so
and I think the bye week will do a great job of healing him up a little bit.
That's the
So
key.
it could be like a 60-40 split between the two of them.
Because I think Adam, like what Aaron Jones was, yes, he's not currently that right now. And hopefully he is in 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's got to be sure.
But he may not be 100% in 2 weeks.
All right. By the way, Van Jefferson or Odell Beckham?
Beckham.
I'll lean with Van.
Okay. San Francisco 34, Minnesota 26. Last game.
Believe it or not, if Dalvin Cook is out, Alexander Madison is a top 5 running back rest of the season.
I think top 5 is too high.
Oh, better. I'm sorry. I missed the other. I had to scrub this one from the FFT tomorrow, but Deebo Samuel should be running back eligible.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Well, how does that work?
But no.
How does that work?
People are asking about it because you're opening a can of worms by making that one.
Yeah, you really are.
No, I'm not at all.
Not.
Because people are already clamoring for it. People are already tweeting us. People are already emailing us. And so I'm going to explain why that's not the case. And it's very simple. Cordero Patterson got changed to running back because the Falcons listed him as a running back.
Correct.
If the 49ers came out with a depth chart with Deebo Samuel as a running back, then we'd have a conversation.
Well, then why didn't we remove?
It's not just a depth chart. They got to label him as one.
Right. And the other key to that is that we don't want this rule to be different, because we don't want all these running backs to be wide receiver eligible just because they line up as wide receivers for 15 plays a game. Every single tight end who's relevant in fantasy would be wide receiver and tight end eligible because they line up in multiple places. Like, we don't want it determined by where players line up.
So why didn't we remove Cordero Patterson's wide receiver eligibility?
I don't believe
he entered the year with when you enter the year with an eligibility, you don't lose it.
Right.
But it can be added to.
Right.
He got it added before the season started. That's also been a part of the protocol that we've used.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he's right. Like, if the 49ers came out and said, yeah, Deebo Samuel's a running back now, then we'd have to at least have a conversation about it. I think we'd probably do what we've done in the past and just make it up to the commissioners in their leagues.
Mm-hmm.
We did that with Taysom Hill last year, where each commissioner had to make the choice about whether or not they wanted to give that competitive advantage to the person that had that player on their team. It's a clear advantage if you've got Deebo as a running back.
We got so many great Fantasy Cops questions because that other site really bungled. Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, sometimes you make mistakes. I get it, but they did not handle the Taysom Hill thing very well, and it was a storm. All right, we're out of here. Thanks so much, everybody. Hope Week 12 was good for you, and hoping to get a good second half in this mega dud of a game. We will talk to you tomorrow on Fantasy Football Today.